The NHRA, the world's largest motorsport sanctioning body, showcasing speeds in excess of 290 miles an hour and traveling the quarter mile in less than 5 seconds. Winston Championship Drag Racing from the NHRA. There is a $1 million pot of gold waiting at the end of the season for the winners in the Winston Championship Drag Racing Series. A total of 19 races at tracks across the United States and Canada challenge the world's best drag racers. The last event in the NHRA Winston Series was the second annual Fram Super Nationals at the world's quickest and fastest racetrack, Houston Raceway Park. There, the Top Fuel Championship was a showdown between the reigning Winston champ, Joe Amato, and the man that had won the season-opening Winter Nationals, Gary Ormsby. A quick reaction time at the start by Ormsby paid off at the finish as he won his second event in a row and with a commanding lead in the Winston Series. The points leader in funny car, Bruce Larson, had a shot at 2 wins in a row. He met 25-year-old Scott Coletta in the Super Nationals finals. Coletta got very close to the outside guardrail, but Larson had engine problems near the finish line, which allowed Coletta to win his first ever NHRA championship. But the runner-up finish by Larson kept him in the Winston points lead. One driver has dominated pro stock racing for the past 5 years. Bob Glidden, not noted for early season wins, surprised everyone by a big victory at Pomona. At Houston, Glidden raced Morris Johnson Jr. for a chance at consecutive wins. Glidden outran Johnson to take his 69th event title and a strong lead in the NHRA Winston Drag Racing Series. Now the racing scene shifts to the sunshine of North Central Florida, where a huge crowd has been jamming one of the sport's finest facilities. For 5 days, racing action has been intense at the sprawling Gainesville Raceway and the 20th annual Motorcraft Gatornationals, race number 3 in the $17 million Winston Series. Hello, everybody. I'm Dave McClelland, and welcome to Gainesville Raceway, site of the largest drag racing event on the East Coast, this Gatornationals Championship. A crowd estimated at over 100,000 people for the 5 days of this event has seen some spectacular action in round number 1. Both the low qualifier and the current Winston points leaders went out of competition in surprising upsets. The reigning Winston champ, Joe Amato, had qualified in the number 1 position with the quickest time of the meet at 5.05 seconds. In round number 1, Amato raced the number 9 qualifier, Dennis Purcell. The Minneapolis, Minnesota driver got the advantage at the start and was able to hold off the hard-charging Amato. In addition to his quicker reaction time, Purcell also outperformed Amato on the racetrack with a 5.15 second elapsed time to a losing 5:17.
We've changed a lot of stuff this morning, try to get the deal ironed out, and I was pumped up. Joe's tough. You got to be on your time when you're racing Joe.
The other major upset in the first round of Top Fuel saw the current Winston points leader and the driver trying for his 3rd consecutive win, Gary Ormsby, falling to a quicker start by Hank Endres. The veteran Endres left the line some 0.04 of a second quicker than Ormsby, and that was all he needed as he was able to squeeze out a close win. Now for more of the excitement in the first round of Top Fuel racing here at the Gatornationals, here's my good friend Steve Evans.
David, you can ask any fan in this jam-packed racetrack, and they'll tell you the scariest win of this entire Gatornational so far came earlier today in round 1 of Top Fuel. It was Shirley Muldowney up against Connie Coletta. Right off the starting line, Shirley's engine broke a connecting rod. It was still pulling, so she stayed with it. Then it caught on fire. The lady still wouldn't give up. Then it was sliding around in its own oil. Shirley stayed with it and won the race. You never really know how good a drag racing driver is until he or she gets in trouble. And Shirley Muldowney, that was a spectacular job.
Thank you. It didn't lay down on me or anything. I didn't know I had a problem until I pulled the chutes and they were gone.
Speaking of
there, I don't think.
Exactly, and you can see looking at the back of the chute packs, they are burned off. The tires were a worry as far as I was concerned. They could have burned off.
Yeah, well, I've seen that happen. I think we lost an oil line or something. There's nothing out of the motor. I don't really know what happened, Steve, but we won. That's good enough.
Indeed. Again, tremendous job.
Thank you.
Boy, you can tell Shirley Muldowney still thrives on the excitement of this sport. And you talk about excitement. Here's a bunch of people that know where to find it. They have surrounded the talk of Pro Stock, the Glidden family, Bob and Etta, the sons, the daughters-in-law, even the grandson, Brandon. And they have demolished Pro Stock so far this year. As you all know, they've already won 9 Winston Championships. Well, listen to the '89 record. They won the opening Winter Nationals. They moved on to Houston, Texas. They won the Super Nationals. Here in Gainesville, Bob was the low qualifier and already has survived round number 1. If he wins here today, it will be his 70th NHRA championship, probably en route to a 10th Winston title. But right now, it's time to smoke the tires. The second round of Funny Cars are ready.
Steve, that Pro Stock action will be coming up just a little bit later on today, and we definitely will be watching the continuing saga of the Glidden family. Right now it's round number 2 of Funny Car Eliminator, and Mark Oswald at the wheel of the Motorcraft Ford Probe, the team of Candies and Hughes from South Louisiana, racing against the California-based team of Hendy and Worsham. Art Hendy is the driver. Both cars backing up after their long, smoky burnouts. The lane choice here goes to Mark Oswald as a result of his first round victory over Steve Burt. The choice of lanes goes to the driver who has the quicker elapsed time in the previous round. In this case, it was Oswald, much quicker in round 1 than was Art Hendy. Here you get a good look at the super sleek aerodynamic styling of that Ford Probe of Mark Oswald. The 1984 Winston champion, Oswald, qualified in the number 3 spot. Art Hendy, a former boat racer, qualified in the number 7 spot with a 5.40 second elapsed time. Now, Hendy and Oswald racing in round number 2 competition at the Motorcraft Gatornationals. A tremendous start for both drivers. A close race. Art Hendy has squeaked by Mark Oswald in an upset victory. Art Hendy with a 5.45 second elapsed time, a speed of 270 miles an hour. Defeats Mark Oswald with an advantage at the start. And you see right here the very slight advantage that Hendy had. He held on to throughout the entire quarter-mile racing distance. And at the finish line, Hendy by just inches was the victor.
Well, Dave, it's moments like this that we enjoy so much down here at the far end to see a totally unsponsored racer like Art Hendy, only a few months into the Nitro Wars, defeat one of the, well, the all-time favorite funny cars in this sport. Congratulations.
Hey, thanks a lot, Steve.
What did it look like from the cockpit?
Oh, hey, he was right alongside me the whole way. Shook a little bit, he pulled ahead, and then I started pulling on him. We were right there neck and neck the whole way.
You nipped him just a little bit off the starting line, and that probably made the difference.
Well, you know, anytime you defeat somebody like that, you've done something, let me tell you.
You know, this is your old alcohol car. It's even your old alcohol motor with a lot of changes.
Right. We don't have a lot of money. We need some of those big sponsors. Come on, guys, help us.
Well, you've already made some money today, and you may make more. See you in the semi.
Yeah, no, thank you, Steve. Thank you.
Art Hendy savoring the elation of victory as the crew comes to congratulate the victor over Mark Oswald. The 1989 NHRA Motorcraft Gatornationals is being brought to you by Motorcraft. Get the peace of mind of doing it right with the right parts. Motorcraft, quality parts. And by Goodyear Eagle Tires. Goodyear, because there really is a difference. More funny car action in round number 2 at the Gatornationals coming up next.
Have you driven a Ford lately? Quaker State exceeds every single car maker's U.S. requirements for maximum engine protection. That's why in Atlanta, Georgia, the engine in every fire truck, every police car, every Atlanta city-owned vehicle is a Quaker State engine. The big Q stands for quality. Always has, always will.
Over its life, a Motorcraft battery delivers enough energy to light up a small park, like Candlestick Park. Shouldn't you install that peace of mind? Motorcraft quality parts from Ford. A Motorcraft spark plug has to fire 500 times a minute. Over its life, that's a spark 5 miles long. Shouldn't you install that peace of mind? Motorcraft quality parts from Ford.
All of these championship-winning drivers have one thing in common: Goodyear Racing Eagles. The race-winning technology that's found in the Goodyear Racing Eagles can also be found in the Goodyear Eagle line of high-performance street radials, the best-selling performance tires in the world. Goodyear Eagles, for the spirit of a champion that's in all of us.
At Gainesville Raceway near Gainesville, Florida, the 20th annual Motorcraft Gatornationals is unfolding in front of a huge crowd with some of the finest weather ever to grace this first race on the eastern seaboard. This is Ed McCulloch, driver of the Miller High Life Oldsmobile out of the San Jacinto, California-based team of Larry Minor. His competition, R.C. Sherman from Frederick, Maryland. His body style, a Pontiac Sunbird. After more than 2 decades at this sport, this is one of the finest showings ever for R.C. Sherman. He qualified in the number 9 spot, not an enviable position to be in, because that means in round number 1 of competition, you have to race the number 1 qualifier. In this case, R.C. Sherman beat Mike Dunn. Ed McCulloch qualified number 5 with a fine 5:39 elapsed time, and in his first round race was matched against the most recent winner on the NHRA Winston Championship Trail, that is Scott Coletta. It was at Houston and the France Super Nationals that Coletta won his first ever title. He was in the near lane in this first round competition, McCulloch in the far lane. Close race to the finish line, but McCulloch was the victor and advanced into round number 2, where he now faces R.C. Sherman. 11 times in his career, Ed McCulloch has visited the winner's circle at an NHRA national event. R.C. Sherman has yet to knock his first victory. Both cars set. And up in smoke, loss of traction for R.C. Sherman. McCulloch just coasts through as he has some mechanical problems, but McCulloch is the winner and advances into the semifinals of Funny Car Eliminator. His time a very slow 6.47 seconds. He is very vulnerable to losing lane choice in the semifinals. Our next pair features the 4-time and reigning Winston champion, the Budweiser King, Kenny Bernstein. The Buick Reatta-bodied car is racing against the Oldsmobile of Bruce Larson, the hottest driver on the circuit this season. Both drivers unleashing some 4,000 horsepower apiece to get those huge tires spinning through that puddle of water. This exercise, known as a burnout, is a necessary part of the sport of championship drag racing. It does 2 things primarily. It gets the tires hot and clean, and it lays down a track of rubber on the surface. Kenny Bernstein qualified in the number 2 spot with a 5:33, while his competition, Bruce Larson, was the number 6 qualifier at a 5:39. As the car comes to a stop after the burnout, the fiberglass body is raised to allow a crewman access to the engine to make an adjustment. It is a normal part of the routine for Bruce Larson. Bernstein's crew checking over the cockpit as his crew chief, Dale Armstrong, directs him to the proper place at the starting line. Bernstein against Bruce Larson. Bruce Larson has upset Kenny Bernstein with a 5.33 second elapsed time. His speed, 2
273 miles an hour. A tremendous race from start to finish. You can see a slight advantage for Bernstein at the start, some 600ths of a second to be exact, but almost instantly it was made up by Bruce Larson. As you can see in this replay, Larson started his charge for the finish line and pulled ahead of Bernstein and stayed there.
All I can say is 5:33.
All right, we're right back on track again.
And you haven't hurt the engine. You've had a lot of motor problems.
Yeah, and this time it didn't.
Have you found something?
Yeah, we're just kind of creeping up on it. We started out soft this morning, and it looked real good, so we turned it back up the way it should run.
You know, I saw Kenny Bernstein this morning when I first pulled into the gate, and he said, Bruce Larson, that's the guy I've got to beat. He was looking ahead to you.
The tables have turned a little bit, but you never can count him out. He's good, too.
Oh, indeed. Great victory.
Thanks a lot.
Seldom do you see Bruce Larson without a smile on his face, and he is definitely happy at this moment. So is this huge crowd as they are enjoying some tremendous competition in funny car racing, as was evidenced by that Bernstein and Larson race. Our next pair on the track after their burnouts, Chuck Etchels and Whit Bazemore, the final two cars in round number 2. Now let's go back to the far end of the racetrack, where Steve Evans is with Kenny Bernstein.
Well, Kenny, a good close race. You knew that Bruce Larson was going to be the toughest opponent on your side of the ladder.
Oh, yeah, no doubt about it. He's done a great job the first 3 races, so, yeah, that's the way it goes.
There's a lot of races in this season, though.
Oh, there is, but, you know, he's going away, so what can I say?
You can say that Bruce Larson is making a lot of Winston points, David.
You're exactly right, Steve, and Kenny Bernstein knows how it's done. Over the years, he's done the same thing to the competition with a strong early season start. The crew checking under the Ted Combas car, driven by Whit Bazemore. Bazemore, an up-and-coming young driver from Redding, California, formerly based in the Southeast, against the veteran Chuck Etchels out of Woodstock, Connecticut. Young Bazemore is a photographer by trade who has always had a desire to be a race car driver. He went to Frank Hawley's drag racing school to learn how to do it right, and now here he is in round number 2 at the wheel of Ted Combas's Pontiac Trans Am. His competition, Chuck Etchels. And Etchels strikes the tires. Bazemore has problems. He has to lift, and Chuck Etchels recovers and takes the win. His elapsed time only 6.006 seconds flat. That doesn't do him a lot of good when he has to race Bruce Larson in the semifinals, who drilled a 5:33 and has the lane choice. The other pair finds Ed McCulloch, who had mechanical problems on his race, against Art Hendy, who had a quick run against Oswald and the lane choice. Lots more racing coming up next at the Motorcraft Gatornationals.
Celebrate America's entertainment choice. April is National Cable Month. 30 days of great nights. Superstars, super hits, styles and trends, winners and losers, inspiration, destinations, facts and figures, sales and bargains, great debates, fun and games. 24 hours a day, Cable's choice is your choice. And during National Cable Month, watch for a different cable network every night featured in prime time. Coming in April, 30 days of great nights.
Mechanical mayhem and motorized madness. This is the best and most exciting racing action video you will ever see. Others may imitate, but you're watching the original Havoc. Up in the air or down in the mud, it's all pure Havoc. Order now. Call 1-800-847-7000. COD order. Send $39.95 plus $3 shipping and handling to Power Sports, P.O. Box 6838, Encino, California 91416. Order now. This is a limited offer.
NASCAR drivers have to think fast on a short track. See the excitement of the first Union 400 from North Wilkesboro Speedway, Sunday afternoon at 1 Eastern, live on ESPN.
We're back at Gainesville Raceway in the 20th annual running of the Motorcraft Gatornationals, and you're looking in on the pit area of Darrell Gwynn, the 27-year-old Miami, Florida top fuel driver, getting his car ready for racing coming up a little bit later on today. As on the starting line, it is the fastest of the factory hot rods Pro Stock Eliminator. This is the Chevrolet Beretta of Reed Wisden from Hapeville, Georgia. He was a plumber by trade, now a professional drag racer. This is the Excite Edge Dodge Daytona of Darrell Alderman. The unique thing here in this car is this is the only Dodge in Pro Stock competition today. Alderman qualified well in the number 3 spot with a 7:34. Wisden qualified number 7 with a very close 7:37. So this is, as it has been over the last 3 races, a matter of parity in Pro Stock racing. The cars are bunched very close together, truly can be considered a driver's race as the cars are very evenly matched. Starter Buster Count looking on as Alderman stages in the far lane. Reed Wisden in the near lane. Chevy against Dodge. And the Dodge prevails. Darrell Alderman with a 7.35 second elapsed time, 186 miles an hour, nearly matching his qualifying performance here in the heat of the day on race day. The AC Delco entry of Butch Leal. This is a Pontiac Trans Am. His competition is Frank Iaconio, driving the Super Shop Special in also a Pontiac Trans Am. Iaconio was runner-up to Bob Glidden earlier this season at the Winter Nationals. Now let's go to the far end. Steve Evans and Darrell Alderman.
Look at that grin, Dave. Chrysler fans have waited so long for a hero in Pro Stock, and Darrell, you're at a 7:35.
7:35. I didn't think it went that fast.
Indeed it did. And this is not a Hemi. Let's clear that right up.
No, it's a B1.
Big wedge
B1
motor.
wedge motor, yeah.
And a lot of development has gone into it.
A full year of it. They worked their butts off trying to make power.
I'll let you get back to the pits.
Okay, thank you, Steve.
And make power it does. It has put Darrell Alderman into the semifinals of Pro Stock Eliminator. Now Frank Iaconio gets set. The Flanders, New Jersey-based driver, qualified in the number 4 spot with a 7:35. His competition from Blacklick, Ohio, Butch Leal, was the number 8 qualifier with a 7:37. Only a couple of hundred separating these 2 cars in their performance potential. How will the drivers respond to the green light? Iaconio has a slight advantage. A handful for both drivers, and Iaconio by a car length takes the victory. 7.42 second elapsed time. His speed 186 miles an hour. Liquid dynamite nitromethane being put in the tank by Ed McCulloch. More racing coming up from the Gatornationals.
If you're looking for a rotor or a windshield wiper motor, yeah, you'll find it at CarQuest. If you got the smarts, then it's the place for parts. Yeah, you'll find it at CarQuest.
Why run around town when they've got it all down at CarQuest?
Take it from Roy Clark and the repairmen. If it's a really tough part, then don't lose heart. Yeah, you'll find it at CarQuest.
Well, that's sure plain to see. Ain't hiding from the
Levi Garrett Chevy Beretta, the team of Rare and Morrison, driven by Bruce Allen, racing against the Stroh's Light Pontiac Trans Am Firebird of Ricky Smith. This is the first season for Smith at the wheel of the GM product, formerly campaigning the Ford, now enjoying great success with his Pontiac. The final staging procedures underway. And a good start for both drivers. A final advantage of less than a car length. The margin of victory for Bruce Allen, 7.37 seconds. His speed, 187 miles an hour. This is Bob Glidden, the Motorcraft Ford Probe, carrying our onboard camera. This is another round in the continuing war between Bob Glidden and Warren Johnson. These 2 drivers have battled on racetracks throughout the United States and Canada, and more often than not, Warren Johnson has not been the victor. But here he hopes to reverse that trend. Warren Johnson, the driver of the AC Delco Oldsmobile. For Bob Glidden, another milestone is in sight in his career. Earlier, Steve Evans talked with him.
Did you ever think you'd get to the point where I would be saying to you, Bob, you could get win number 70 today?
Well, not years ago now. Maybe last week we thought that, Steve, but no, really that was not even a thought in any way.
Are there milestones anymore for you?
Well, every race is a milestone for us. Right now, it would be a milestone to win at Gainesville. You know, that rarely happens for us.
It has only happened twice in Bob Glidden's career, in 1975 and again in 1979. It has been a 10-year absence from the winner's circle at the Gatornationals for Bob Glidden. Warren Johnson visited there back in 1985. Bob Glidden in the far lane. Warren Johnson in the near lane. You're riding in the Motorcraft Ford Probe. Glidden in high gear pulls ahead of Warren Johnson and takes the win. Glidden, his elapsed time, 7:34. Warren Johnson, a 7:42. As we look again, an instant replay, you can see the huge advantage off the starting line that was gained by Warren Johnson. The difference between the two drivers was nearly 0.06 of a second to Johnson's benefit, but it was the power of the Ford of Bob Glidden that paid off at the finish line. Nearly 2 miles an hour faster as he crossed the mark at the end of the track. Glidden advances into the semifinals to race the surprising Darrell Alderman in the Dodge. Glidden has the choice of lanes. The other pair in the semifinals finds the defending Gatornationals champion Bruce Allen against Frank Iaconio, with Allen having lane choice. In Art Hendy's pit area, the normal maintenance work going on between rounds, getting his funny car ready to race Ed McCullough. More action coming up shortly from the 20th annual Motorcraft Gator. Say hi to Frank Iaconio Jr. He's enjoying himself at the Motorcraft Gator Nationals. So's his dad. He takes his Pontiac to the starting line against the defending champion Bruce Allen in Pro Stock semifinals. Right now, though, we're in the semifinal round of Top Fuel Eliminator. This is the quickest and fastest driver in the sport, Eddie Hill, at the wheel of the Super Shop Special. This car is 3 years old. He resurrected it after his devastating crash at the Winter Nationals earlier this year. Eddie Hill, in round number 2 racing earlier today, raced Shirley Muldowney. You'll remember her fiery victory over Connie Coletta in the first round of racing. But a little later in the day, in round number 2, Hill had the choice of lanes over Muldowney, driving that bright pink Performance Automotive Wholesale Special. Hill had a great start. He extended his lead and took the victory, which moved him into the semifinals to race against Hank Endres from Pennsville, New Jersey. In round number 2, racing earlier, Endres was matched against Dick LaHaye from Lansing, Michigan. The 1987 Winston champion was in the near lane against the brand new car of Jeff and Susan Bernstein, driven by Endres. The Miller High Life Special of LaHaye went up in smoke. So did Endres, but Endres recovered and crossed the finish line first, but it was an expensive win that put him into the semifinals. Earlier, Steve stopped by the pit area and found out why.
Well, normally there'd be about 20 hands thrashing on that motor, but the announcement has just been made that Hank Endres will not go to the starting line. And Hank, it's a problem you just can't deal with.
Well, one of the carbide buttons in the clutch is cocked a little bit, and we can't find neutral, and Schultz didn't want to go to the starting line and have it maybe run over somebody or couldn't get in reverse or something. So
to make it right, you'd have to completely disassemble everything.
Take the clutch completely out, yeah.
Well, it's a very wise decision Mr. Schultz has made. Do you agree?
Oh, yeah. Safety's got to be important.
Okay, sorry that you're not going to be on the starting line.
But we did good.
Oh, you did good. Oh, you did good.
Everybody worked hard, and, you know, just thank Winston and everybody for putting these deals on. We'll be back.
An impressive debut performance for the Bernstein family. No relation to Kenny, their team manager Bill Schultz, and their driver Hank Endres. That victory, though, that cost them the mechanical problem, also cost them a shot at Eddie Hill. He has a single. Obviously trying for the low ET and choice of lanes, Eddie Hill runs 5.09 seconds. His speed over 277 miles an hour to advance into the Gatornationals finals. That time is all the more impressive when you consider this car was retired almost 2 years ago, then pressed back into service at the Fram Super Nationals, and now running the quickest time of eliminations here at the Gatornationals. The next pair in the semifinal round finds Darrell Gwynn from Miami, Florida, against the Montesano, Washington-based lumberman Earl Whiting in the near lane. From Miami, Florida comes the Gwynn family. Their 27-year-old son, Darrell, considers Gainesville Raceway his home track and certainly is a favorite with this huge crowd. Now let's go to the far end of the racetrack. Steve Evans is with Eddie Hill.
Well, for the first time
This season, I think we're going to see that famous Texas smile when the helmet comes off, because for the first time, Eddie Hill is having a smooth weekend. 5:09.
Oh, that's terrific, terrific, man. I am so happy after everything we've been through. That crash at Pomona and the hassles we had here and all the laps we missed and everything, and this old antique car, 83 model, I just couldn't be happier.
We're happy for you. Now let's find out who you're going to meet in the final round. Let's go back to Dave McClellan.
Steve, regardless of whether it is Darrell Gwynn or Earl Whiting, you know that they have got to be thinking about that 5:09 that the happy Texan has just laid down on this Gainesville racetrack. Earl Whiting is in the near lane, while Darrell has the same 1,320 feet just used by Eddie Hill. Earlier in the second round of racing, Earl Whiting, the number 15 qualifier, was matched against Jim Head, the number 11 qualifier. This was another case of mechanical problems giving a decided advantage to a competitor as Jim Head broke on the burnout in that second round race, giving a bye run to Earl Whiting. Whiting recorded a 5.25 second elapsed time at 276 miles an hour to race against this man, Darrell Gwynn, who had qualified in the number 5 spot. In round number 2 racing, his opponent was Dennis Forcell, who was the surprise winner back in round number 1 over Joe Amato. We saw that earlier today. A final check of the race car by crew chief Larry Frazier. Dennis Forcell brought the Simpatico Special to the starting line to face Darrell Gwynn. Forcell instantly had problems and had to lift off the throttle. Gwynn carried the run through to a 5.17 second elapsed time. That put him into the semifinals against Earl Whiting. As they bring their cars to the starting line, they have got to be thinking about that 5:09 that you just saw by Eddie Hill on his single run. By nearly 0.05 of a second, that is the quickest elapsed time of the day. A beautiful race with Darrell Gwynn by about a half a car length, winning over Earl Whiting. His time of 5.22 second elapsed time. That will give the lane choice in the finals to Eddie Hill. As we look again in replay, you can see how Gwynn won this race. Whiting was close at the start, and then in the middle of the racetrack, Darrell Gwynn forged ahead. But at the finish line, coming on strong, Whiting almost pulled it out. But there was the margin of victory for Darrell Gwynn. That sets the finals in Top Fuel Eliminator. The Texan Eddie Hill against the crowd favorite Darrell Gwynn. Hill has the lane choice. Steve?
Well, you gratefully accept any win light you can get, but this one came with some strings attached to it. You've lost lane choice and maybe some engine damage.
Yeah, I don't know what quite went wrong. I felt it going bad, but I knew Earl, if he didn't smoke the tires, he'd be right beside me. So it's the final, going to the Gatornationals. I'm not lifting.
Now the motor comes apart.
That's right. We got a lot of work to do. Hopefully we can pull one off for the hometown fans here.
Okay, good luck.
Thank you.
A motivated Darrell Gwynn headed to the finals of the Gatornationals. A racing conference for the Glidden family. Could this be the source of all his success? Grandson Brandon. Raceway, where a huge crowd watching intently as the crew prepares Bruce Larson's funny car for the semifinal race against Chuck Etchell. Larson has definitely got to be considered the favorite here. He had low elapsed time of eliminations at a 5.33 seconds just a few weeks ago. At the Fram Super Nationals, he set the new national record at a 5.27 second elapsed time. Chuck Etchels, his competition, will have to pull off the best run of the day if he hopes to challenge the flying Bruce Larson. Both drivers are ready. Again, Bruce Larson just annihilates the competition. Etchels, with some engine problems, slowed him at the three-quarter point on the racetrack, but Larson already had built up a huge advantage and even quicker at 5.31 second elapsed time. His speed, 275 miles an hour. For the third race in a row, Bruce Larson is in the finals of an NHRA national event. Art Hindy, former boat racer, former alcohol funny car racer, now enjoying the finest day of his career in the professional categories as he is racing against Ed McCulloch in the semifinals. In his 11 career victories, McCulloch has been a Gatornationals champion twice. in 1972 and again back in 1986. Now let's go to the far end and Steve.
For the third consecutive race, this man, Bruce Larson, goes into the final round. That is a nice ring to it, doesn't it?
Oh, it feels great, Steve.
And you're going to love the elapsed time, the 5:31, the best of the day.
Right. Okay, we're ready for the final.
And for a change, you've had a trouble-free day.
Yeah, it's gone real smooth. We've been fighting it for the last couple of races, but we're catching up with our problems.
The problem's just now setting in for Art Hindy. You see the slash sign across the throat? That indicates to Hindy to shut the engine down. He pulls the fuel shutoff valve that cuts the supply of nitromethane to the engine. It dies, and that indicates for Ed McCulloch a single run as McCulloch gets the break of the day to go into the final round. Hindy had the choice of lanes, but the mechanical problems suffered on the burnout were so severe that he had to shut the engine off. And McCulloch goes up in smoke. This cannot be a confidence builder for the two-time Gator Nationals winner. He is going into the final round to race against the quickest car of eliminations. McCulloch's time only a 9:76 at 68 miles an hour. But that was quicker, we must admit, than Art Hindy's, who was forced to shut off at a tough break for the team of Hindy and Worship. That sets up the finals. Compare that 9:76 by McCulloch against the 5:31 of Bruce Larson. And you know why. Larson has lane choice. Raceway for this weekend of spectacular excitement. Now let's go to Steve with funny car finalist Ed McCulloch.
Well, the last round, Ace, the car shut itself off. It appeared you shut it off that time, and you realized lane choice was not a practical thing to get.
Well, that run right there, I knew that I was on a single. I wanted to see how hard we could get after it. I probably smoked the tires myself to see if it was going to hold. If he'd have been alongside of me, I wouldn't have done what I did, and I probably wouldn't have smoked the tires. But had it held on, it would have laid one down.
Laying down lots of rubber out of the burnout box is the Levi Garrett Chevy Beretta of Bruce Allen, the defending Pro Stock champion here at the Gator Nationals. He is racing against Frank Iaconio at the wheel of the Pontiac Trans Am. Iaconio has been consistently better on the starting line at this event than practically any other competitor. He is already in the staging beams. Could be a bit of a psychological ploy, putting some pressure on Allen to get him up and stayed. Iaconio sitting and waiting, watching the lights at the top of the starting device known as the Christmas tree. When both lights are on in each lane, it indicates the racers are ready. And a good start. Iaconio and Allen. And Frank Iaconio goes into the finals. 7.39 second elapsed time for Iaconio, a 7:36, a bit quicker for Bruce Allen. How could that be? You saw it just then, an instant replay. Frank Iaconio left the starting line first, and that advantage over Bruce Allen was enough to carry his Pontiac Trans Am 1,320 feet and to the victory and the finals of the Gator Nationals.
Frank Iaconio takes a big, deep breath, as we all are. What a drag race.
Yeah, Steve, I knew I had to push it a little bit against Bruce because he had lane choice, plus he was running a little better than us, and I pushed the tree a little bit, and I guess I got away with it.
You did. Your 39 defeated his 36.
Yeah, I guess so.
Great driving.
Thanks, Steve.
The final pair in this semifinal round of Pro Stock, the surprising dodge of Darrell Alderman against the best in Pro Stock, Bob Glidden. Glidden and his Ford Probe in the pre-stage beam. Alderman sitting in the pre-stage light, neither driver pulling ahead that 6 to 7 inches. Now Glidden makes a move. Alderman pulls forward and he is staged. The engine's up to around 9,000 and they're off the starting line. Alderman has the advantage at the start, and look at the finish line. Darrell Alderman into the finals. What an upset. Darrell Alderman, 7.38 seconds. This race was won on the starting line. Let's watch again. Darrell Alderman in the near lane. You see the advantage he gained over Bob Glidden. The quicker reaction times for Alderman carried him to nearly a car-length lead at mid-course. And that was nearly the margin of victory when they hit the finish line a quarter of a mile away. What an upset. Darrell Alderman beats Bob Glidden in the semifinals. That sets up the Gator Nationals Pro Stock Finals between Alderman and Iaconio two drivers with superlative reaction time.
This has got to be the greatest moment for Dodge fans and Dodge racers in the last 15, 20 years.
And Darrell Alderman, too, because that's the first time I've ever beat him.
What was going on in the starting line? Nobody wanted to stage a little game, maybe?
Well, you know, you make up your mind whether you want to go in first or last, and you got to stick with it.
If both guys want to be last, that's what happens.
That's when Buster comes in, and he can make it hard on you.
Well, you did indeed leave on him by a few hundredths of a second. Identical 738s. What a job.
Thank you.
You got a tough final coming up, Iaconia?
Sure. Frank won the last round. He's tough.
You've got lane choice.
That's better.
Okay. Darrell Alderman, I think he's still a little stunned.
Steve, if you think Darrell's stunned, how do you think Bob Glidden feels? Well, Eddie Hill's feeling happy. You saw the smile on his face after that 5:09. His crew chief, Fuzzy Carter, doing the work along with the rest of the crew to get that Top Fuel Dragster prepared for the final round, the race against Darrell Gwynn. We'll be right back to the Motorcraft Gatornationals.
If you're looking for a rotor or a windshield wiper motor, yeah, you'll find it at CarQuest. If you've got the smarts, then it's the place for parts. Yeah, you'll find it at CarQuest.
Why run around town when they've got it all down at CarQuest?
Take it from Roy Clark and the repairmen. If it's a really tough part, then don't lose heart. Yeah, you'll find it at CarQuest. It's just a pure and natural beer for you. So icy cold, so crisp, so clear for you. The king of beer, so fresh, so true for you. You got the taste, this bud's for you.
The nation's premier college seniors in the NBA's premier scouting event. America's top prospects show their stuff in the final game of the Orlando All-Star Classic. Saturday night, live on ESPN.
The setting sun over Gainesville Raceway indicates it's time for the finals of our professional categories of competition. The Motorcraft Gatornationals Pro Stock Finals finds Darrell Alderman at the wheel of the Dodge in the far lane against the Pontiac of Frank Iaconio. Alderman has the choice of lanes, and this truly is a battle of drivers' reaction times. The cars are almost equal in terms of performance, but these two superlative drivers have put on quite a show today. 6 times Frank Iaconio has been in the final round of a Gatornationals. He has won it twice in 1978 and 1981. This is the first time ever in a Pro Stock final for Darrell Alderman. And Darrell Alderman has just written the upset story of this short season. The Dodge has defeated Frank Iaconio for the first victory by a Dodge-powered car at the Gatornationals since 1979. Again, it was the driving skill of Alderman that paid off. He was 2/100ths of a second quicker off the starting line than Iaconio. At the finish line, Iaconio ran the race 1/100th of a second quicker than did Alderman. But that advantage at the start paid off at the finish.
Across this land, Chrysler Motorsports fans have gone crazy, as has Darrell Alderman. What a job.
I don't know what to say. We were just lucky. We had a combination that worked. Wayne County worked their tails off, and there's a special person that give us a tip, anonymous person, and I want to thank them too.
Can you tell us what the tip was?
No, I can't tell that.
You said earlier you like to stage last. Frank gave you that privilege.
Yeah, I think he likes to stage first, so, and he helped us a little too, so we appreciate that.
By the way, you ran a 39 to his 38.
39 to 38.
So you earned your paycheck as well.
Well, I'm tickled.
As are all the fans of the Pentastar Motorsports, and wherever Dave Koppel is, that man's tickled.
Koppel, of course, the engine development man for that Dodge Pro Stock race car. The standings in the Winston Series find Bob Glidden still in the #1 spot. Frank Iaconio moving up a bit with his runner-up finish. Darrell Alderman completed the Gatornationals in the #6 spot.
Our finalists in Funny Car Eliminator, the engine's already running. The burnout's nearly complete at the starting line as Ed McCulloch, without the choice of lanes, has been placed in the near lane of the track where he smoked the tires violently on that bye run in the semifinals. Bruce Larson, the quickest car of elimination, with a 5:31 to his credit in that Century Stack and Gage's Oldsmobile. Larson is already staged. You can see the light bulbs on at the top of the tree. Here comes McCulloch. McCulloch edging forward. He's set. A good start, and McCulloch smokes the tires. Bruce Larson crosses the center line. He is disqualified. His crew cannot believe what has transpired as Bruce Larson crossed the center line. McCulloch's crew just beginning to realize that McCulloch is the Gatornationals champion. He's still idling down the race course. He crosses the finish line at an elapsed time of 19.70 at a speed of 70 miles an hour. Probably the slowest victory Ed McCulloch has ever had. Let's watch again in replay. McCulloch's car instantly lost traction, and then the problems began for Bruce Larson. His car veered towards the center line. He lifted off the throttle, but it was too late. He could not drive away from that center line, and if that was not enough to add injury to insult, the motor let go near the finish line. Steve?
Well, Dave, already McCulloch's crew is down here as he turned off short. And to quote an old friend of yours, three-time, now retired funny car champion Raymond Beadle, some days I'd rather be lucky than fast.
Anytime I'd rather be lucky than good. But
did you see him cross the line?
Yeah, I did. You know, we gambled. The thing was, you know, if it had hung on, it would have flew, but it didn't do it. It smoked the tires. You know, Bruce and their crew, they ran extremely well all weekend, but the winner's circle's going with the Miller Oldsmobile.
You will take the money and the points.
I'm telling you, I'm not going to let them have it.
Great job.
Thank you.
Ed McCulloch, happy as the champion of the 20th annual Gatornationals. Ed McCulloch has moved into the number 2 spot in the Winston Championship points chase. Bruce Larson has got a commanding lead at this point. The surprising Art Hendy is number 4, right behind the reigning champion, Kenny Bernstein. We'll be back with the finals in Top Fuel Eliminator in just a moment.
Over its life, a Motorcraft battery delivers enough energy to light up a small park, like Candlestick Park. Shouldn't you install that peace of mind? Motorcraft quality parts from Ford. A Motorcraft spark plug has to fire 500 times a minute. Over its life, that's a spark 5 miles long. Shouldn't you install that peace of mind? Motorcraft quality parts from Ford.
For the first time, a tournament honoring the game's greatest champions. Senior golf's strongest field ever is part of the tradition. Complete coverage begins Friday afternoon live on ESPN. This is ESPN, the Total Sports Network.
Lights are on at Gainesville Raceway as we ride with defending Top Fuel champion Eddie Hill. He's doing his final burnout in preparation for the race against Darrell Gwynn. You see him right alongside with the tires smoking. This is a difficult, emotional choice for the spectators. They like the Texan Eddie Hill, but they really like their home state favorite, Darrell Gwynn. Over 600 cars were in competition at this Gatornationals. Earlier, Steve took a look at an entry and stock eliminator.
Well, Dave, as a collector yourself, I don't have to tell you the tremendous interest all over the country in early model muscle cars and the incredible prices they're commanding these days. Where do you find them? More than at any auction or show. NHRA Championship Drag Racing by the hundreds in super gas, in super stock, in e-stock. There's Chryslers, there's Fords, and there's Chevrolets. Look at the 68 Camaro Z28 of Tim Bishop from the Eastern Shore of Maryland. Notice the interior has never been gutted to be a race car. In fact, the rules don't allow you to gut the interior. The body is straight as a string. A lot of these cars have never seen the street. They were bought in the 60s to be race cars. And under the hood is the 290-horse 302 Chevrolet V8. Just put street exhaust on it, change the shocks and the tires, and you have got a very original, very valuable street machine. Now, Tim had some problems earlier on in the E-Stock class. Right now, let's check with David and find out who the Sportsman Eliminator winners were here in Florida.
Steve, you're right. Tim Bishop did have problems. He was eliminated by Harold Culpepper in round number 2 of Stock Eliminator. The finalists in stock found the Camaro of Jimmy Shepard in the near lane against Mark Wilson in the Dodge Dart in the far lane. This is handicap racing, where one car physically gets the head start over the other. At the finish line, by a matter of inches, Jimmy Shepard won Stock Eliminator. The other sportsman champions at the Gatornationals, Vicky Beam won Super Gas, Top Alcohol Funny Car. Pat Austin, Top Alcohol Dragster, Cruz Pedregon. In competition eliminator, Joey Heffernan was the champ. Mike Say won his second Gatornationals championship in a row. Terry Dean Martin, the champion Super Comp, and Phil Tannery, the Pro Stock motorcycle champion. This is the final race of the day. The long car in the near lane, the Coors Extra Gold Special. Darrell Gwynn getting the traditional handshake from his dad, Jerry. The shorter car in the far lane is that of Eddie Hill. We have the opportunity to ride with our onboard camera and watch the action from the driver's point of view. Hill is pre-staged. He moves forward. Now Darrell Gwynn comes into the staging beam. A great start for both drivers. And Darrell Gwynn pulls off a big victory with a 5.08 second elapsed time. The crew chief, Ken Vini, and the entire Gwynn crew overjoyed with this victory. A 5:11 elapsed time for Eddie Hill. A tremendous final race of this 20th annual Gatornationals. You see Darrell Gwynn had an advantage by 0.04 of a second at the start. In instant replay, you can see how Gwynn won this race. He continued to pull ahead of Eddie Hill until at the finish line by about a half a car length, it was Darrell Gwynn, the champion of the Gatornationals.
Dave, the crew, not yet here, but what a celebration this will be. When you needed it, you had it, Darrell. 5:08.280.
I appreciate that. I'll tell you what, we gambled like unbelievable in the final. We changed everything but the left front wheel bearing, and I'll tell you what, it paid off. We knew Eddie was going to be right there, and I knew I had to cut a good light, and right in front of my hometown. I can't believe it. 5:08.
You've been so close here before.
That's right, and Eddie's beat me in Texas in front of his hometown, so I paid him back a little bit.
You know, when you change everything, sometimes you don't know which thing worked.
That's right. We didn't know, and I just knew I had to cut a light. I didn't look.
You did.
That's right. Well.
Yeah, that says it. There's nothing more to add.
Steve, I'm sorry that Darrell Gwynn does not register emotion. What a victory for Darrell Gwynn from Miami, Florida. He finished number 2 in the world last year and now questing after that Winston Championship. This victory moved him into the number 2 spot, right behind Gary Ormsby. The reigning champ Joe Amato 3rd, Frank Bradley 4th, and Eddie Hill in 5th. For Steve Evans, I'm Dave McClellan saying so long from Gainesville Raceway. The 1989 NHRA Motorcraft Gatornationals has been brought to you by Motorcraft. Get the peace of mind of doing it right with the right parts. Motorcraft, quality parts.